Folks, welcome back. My name is Rudy. You're watching Alpha Investments. Glad you guys could join me today. Today I'm going to talk about just the overall state of Magic in the CCG world, and just been doing a little chatters and little yip yaps with some other little card stores and basements and underground, all that stuff. And I want to just pass it along to you all. I think a lot of people respect a different opinion and perspective of what's going on, and I just want to share some conversations. One, this gentleman owns an LGS. I'm doing it for about, I don't know, 10 to 12 years now. And he's around the Texas area. And it was interesting. I was asking him, do you still believe in sealed product for Magic? Draft, set, collector, jumpstart, Steps or Tuesdays? Anything. Does any of it appeal to you anymore? And this gentleman told me, not really. I said, well, that's a pretty short, quick answer. Thanks for the conversation. Have a great day. I said, can you give me some details on why CCGs and sealed product in general across the board is just, mostly focused around Magic? Why is it so unappealing? What is it right now that makes you just say, I don't want to touch that toxic garbage? And his response actually was really interesting because it wasn't really about the Magic or the product or Papa Hasbro or the $1,000 60 card proxy thing or, Black Friday, Cyber Monday, Stepsister Tuesday, Rudy Wednesday. He didn't bring up any of that. He specifically told me because of the actual overall economic conditions with inflation and the value of cash. And we talked a little bit about this in some other videos, but this person specifically told me he keeps like $500,000 in reserve cash as a buffer for his LGS. And he told me, he keeps that in case a big collection walks in, a big opportunity from a distributor dumping something, an Amazon dump. So he keeps liquidity, very healthy, well-ran business. Been in business over 10 years. And I said, so with all these crazy prices and Amazon dump or distributor dumps, are you going all in and scooping it up? And he said, well, I'll buy some. Keep the shelves stocked and give me some better margin. It counteracts the other items and lowers my cost basis because I overpay for everything from Wizards at the beginning, as we all do. And he just said specifically that it's not about that. The fact that his particular bank is giving him 3% on cash, and he can move some of that money and get between 5 and 7% on single A, triple B rated corporate bonds. And he said, look, if you're talking $500,000, I'm going to leave $100,000 or $200,000 in cash. I'm going to sweep the other $300,000. I'm going to lock it in at, let's just say 6%. And I said, okay. And he's like, Rudy, 300,000. 1% of 300,000 is how much, everybody? $3,000. So 1% of 300,000 being 3,000 times 6, that's $18,000 a year in interest. And he goes, I don't have to do anything. I don't have to take delivery. I don't have to sell anything. I don't have to ship it online. I don't have to deal with customer returns online. I don't have to deal with selling something expensive and somebody returns G.I. Joe cards. I don't have to sell something and they do credit card chargeback disputes and I'm tangled in a bank. He goes, I don't have to take any risk. Technically, there's always some form of risk unless it's a CD that's FDIC insured. All corporate bonds, even if they're A-rated, investment grade, there's still some degree of, even if it's small, it's not guaranteed in this world. And, it was just really interesting to me because after he pitched this to me, I thought to myself, okay, in the last 10 years, with rates essentially being useless and, cash is trash and bank accounts paying 0 and CDs paying 1 and 2, cash wasn't attractive. When people had excess cash or things were booming or the government says, we're going to give everybody free money, stay home. The world is dangerous. Everybody was just going after, GameStops and GMEs and cryptos and CCGs, and money was flowing to all these different paths of least resistance. And now all these other paths have a lot of resistance, right? It's not a nice, smooth ride now. Everything's turbulent. The probability of a stock going down is probably greater now than many, many years. The probability of buying any new release, whether it's Magic, Pokemon, Weiss, Flesh and Blood, MetaZoo, Rudy Zoo, Eurex, anything you buy is going to be volatile. The odds of it spiking or going up immediately are very, very low. You're not going to get rich buying anything in the CCG world right now. Yes, you in the back. Oh, sorry. Except the Magic 30th anniversary 60 card proxy for $1,000, which apparently is going to $69,000. according to that young lady in the back there who's giving me a strange look. I'll be back there in a minute. And, it's one of these situations where it's reminding me, and I'm here to remind you all, that it does not matter how good or bad Wizards makes Brothers of War. It does not matter how good or bad the next Pokemon, Tempest, whatever is. It does not matter how good or bad the next Weiss set is, or MetaZoo, Seance, which actually is doing very well. And, the new Flesh and Blood Dynasty set looks phenomenal. You're ready to start talking about that the next week. I look at all these, it doesn't matter how good or bad the products are. People who have assets or liquidity, who are making large market moves in the last so many years since I've been on YouTube, they are not viewing any of these things as nearly as attractive as they were in the last 5 years, okay? And that's something we all need to fully understand. Let me give you another good example. After I hung up that phone call, I was like, okay, I looked back and I said, Rudy, why did you buy so many bizarre Baghdad's, in 2017? God, was it 2018, 19, 20, 21? That was 5 years ago. And yes, I just used my fingers to count. That was 5 years ago. And my simple answer was, well, I didn't really want to put the cash in getting 0% or 1%. Bonds didn't pay crap. And I thought Bizarre Baghdad at $600 was the most stupidly mispriced thing ever. Obviously, that did work out in my favor, but I look back at that and I asked myself, okay, well, what if interest rates were high? What if you can get a guarantee 4 to 5% with no risk, FDIC insured, CD at a bank? What if a safer bond is 6%? What if that safer bond becomes 7, 8%? What if the higher yield double B, almost junk bond rating? What if that is 10, 12, 15%? Would you view things differently? And the answer is yeah, I would. I don't think I would look at parking money in sealed product nearly as aggressive because there's other choices now. And the fact that this doesn't apply to everybody is irrelevant, because what's important, as the people who are still interested in this conversation need to realize, there's a lot of other people that may be interested, but they're not going to input money or capital into these sealed products because they have better or other choices that they view have less risk and better outcomes. And now you factor in Hasbro and their behavior recently, and well, that's the icing on the cake, ladies and gentlemen. That makes it, well, it makes everybody pull back. And, Hasbro Wizards of the Coast is doing the exact opposite of Pokemon, MetaZoo, Flesh and Blood, Weiss. Magic and Hasbro is the only one that's not trimming print runs. They're the only one that's not adjusting supply. They're the only one not reducing the quantity of releases. And, well, the market and the public, the community, the attitude of everybody reflects that. I talked about the last 6 months on this channel that anyone in any company that does not adjust and tighten is going to be penalized, humiliated. Humiliated? Can't even talk. I keep thinking humility, that Tempest card. Humiliated and completely slaughtered in 2022. And that's what we're seeing. That's what we're seeing, folks. That's exactly what's happening. Wizards and Hasbro is the only one that's not doing what every other card game is doing right now. And I don't know if they care enough, because when they dump the product, they get their capital. They don't care about long-term impacts. And that's one of the downsides of publicly traded companies and capitalism, is that the people who work those positions, they know in their head they are only going to have that job and career for a finite set of months and years. And they need to make as much money in bonuses and stock bonus compensation, all this crap, before they retire for their family and their future. And unfortunately, that short-term life cycle of a human being in that company creates the long-term damage. And that is one of the downsides. Where if you're a smaller, non-publicly traded company, you will make more decisions for long-term value, your brand, and to make sure you don't nuke the market. And, well, I get it. And I don't think everyone realizes how much of an impact we are seeing with all these products falling apart. Look at Brothers War! Brothers War collector boxes are already like $200. You put that on eBay or TCG Player, you're already losing money. Doesn't even come out for a month. Stores are already pre-ordering Brothers War collector boxes all over the internet. After shipping and fees, they're netting what? 181, maybe 165 to 175? They're already losing money. crazy. But it doesn't have anything to do with Brothers War. It tells me the attitude and the perspective of these store owners. These are toxic assets. They want them off the book, and they don't like them anymore, and they don't trust them. It's a consumer confidence crisis. Yeah. Jeez. Should I edit that out? No, I'm not going to edit that out. I don't care enough. This is a real channel. We're serious. But that's the problem. And what you all are experiencing right now, think about this. What you're experiencing and what everyone's seeing, this is a result when no one hoards the product. You're seeing, I almost want to say you're seeing like a true market. You're seeing like a true player's market of what happens if you alienate the collectors and the investors. And the LGS is like, this is like the weakness in the market. It almost feels like a side effect of when you middle finger all the collectors, investors, and LGSs, and it's just players playing the game. There's no, the market becomes mushy, and there's just no confidence in anything. And I don't know if a lot of people have a lot of people experienced this before? Because that's what it feels like to me. And you're seeing that, well, without everybody playing nice together, collectors, players, and investors, and LGSs, and distributors, and evil basement people, everybody has to play nice. That creates the ecosystem that makes an economy of cardboard. And right now, I don't blame these stores. Like that first example right there, I'm going to give you another 2 examples real quick, but that first example just stood out to me because I'm like, if that person doesn't buy an extra 100, 200, 300,000 of inventory of multiple product lines, because he says, why? I can get 6% with almost no risk and no work. So what happens now in the next 90 days? If rates go up another couple times, in bank CDs and the risk-free rate becomes 5 to 6%. In bonds, go to double-digit 10 to 15%. Well, to be honest with you all, you're probably going to start seeing a lot more corporate bond and corporate debt videos in this channel because if I have an extra $100,000 block of capital and I have to deploy it, I'm not going to call up a distributor and order more, I don't know, XYZ standard magic set, Brothers War. Let's just pick up a new one. I'm not going to do that. If I can go to the secondary market and look at the list of all the bonds that are for sale from other people, and I find a bond, I was going to say a like new, a used bond, a bond that's in there, and if I can find a triple B A-rated bond that's 10% or something, I mean, why the hell would I buy sealed product? And that's not something I can say I've ever, said on this channel in the 6.9 years I've been on YouTube because we've never been in this situation since I've been on YouTube. So, another example. Talk to another store owner. I think in the Carolinas, South Carolina or Virginia? I think it was South Carolina. Where's it, West Virginia? Talked to someone in the Carolinas, Virginia area. Been in business for about 6 years. Told me, Rudy, I've seen some downturns in the 2018 area with the Ixalan, Amma, and Kitty Cat and all that stuff, Iconic Masters and Masters 25, where the items are coming out and tanking. And I said, I know, we were all there. But this person told me, look, I've never seen it like this. And I said, I agree. 2022, you're not having everyone saying, oh, Dominaria is garbage, Infinity is garbage. Like, no one's saying that. No one's saying, oh, dump your Kamigawa, it's garbage. Oh, dump Streets of Copacabana, it's going to... Like, people aren't saying that. Personally, I like Streets of... That's... Anyways, but... the difference is, again, there's just... It's just, as they said, consumers are rejecting Wizards. And consumers aren't buying it. Maybe they're just going online and buying a couple of the single cards they want. There's no chase. There's no excitement. Now, this store blamed it on the flashy cards. He blamed it. This LGS owner blamed it on the flashy card era because now this individual used to do mass box openings similar to me. Not as big of a scale, but he said he would do 120 to 240, which is 20 cases to 20 to 40 cases of draft boxes on each new set so that he could have singles in his display cases and he could have listings on TCG Player. And he says he discontinued his singles in mass box opening business. I think it's was it Core 21 or Theros? Somewhere in the pandemic, about towards the end of 2020, before call time. And I asked him, why'd you discontinue it? He said, well, there was too many variants. It was a pain in the butt to list, pain in the butt to sort, And a lot of people were, well, it progressively got worse, and a lot of buyers were confused on which version of the card they're buying. A lot of confusion ensued. And simply, like you said, the value's just not there. You open a pack, there's so many versions of a card, nobody cares about any of the versions. So they made all these flashy things so extreme, like sports cards, that every single one was rejected. Nobody wants any of them. And of course, he made comments about, what's the point of it all? Why is Wizards making a release where you have a mythic, a showcase mythic, a borderless mythic, a borderless etched foil mythic, a borderless rainbow foil mythic, a borderless textured myth? Like, what's the point of 7 different versions of the same card? It's a nightmare for single card sellers. Most of them just quit, which is why many times now we're seeing the single card market for some of these new Magic releases completely distorted, because you can't really, like, so many stores have quit doing mass box openings and selling singles. It's insane. But what's the point? Wizards puts more money in all this art and versions, but there's no reward. They're inputting more cost for literally nobody cares. Nobody fucking cares. Have you met anybody in your life that's like, oh, thank God there's 7 versions of that mountain. Oh, if there were 6 versions, I'd be fucking out. That's a gift for anybody out there. That's a meme. Like, nobody cares. Except Wizards and maybe their echo chamber of the few people they tested to, or maybe the Tumblr, Twitter backpage group of people where every time they do something, everyone just stands up and claps like a bunch of yes mans or yes men's. What's that called? Wasn't there a movie about that with Jim Carrey? You can't say yes or no. Maybe it's that, because nobody cares. And so this individual blames on the flashy area. Okay, so LGS number 2 I talked to blames everything on the flashy era and a bunch of cards that essentially nobody cares about anymore because it's too confusing and it's diluted. There's nothing special. And I understand that, because when I was doing even the mass box openings on Core 2012, years ago, I mean, I remember cracking the couple hundred boxes of M12. And I remember getting like a foil mythic Jace, or just a foil mythic. And I was like, whoa, a foil mythic! I got a foil mythic in the mass box opening. Cool, which one did you get, Rudy? Like, it was a big deal. It meant something. And now you watch me do mass box opening, or mass box, you watch me do a box opening on YouTube. I was like, rare, rare, rare. All right, so this pack was good, everybody. We got 3 rares, 4 mythics, and 2 versions. They're all worthless. Like, they've destroyed the concept of making something special. And that's a tragedy. So and now store number 3, that was a long video, sorry. Now store number 3 I talked to was interesting. Store number 3 was sheer anger at Hasbro Wizards for doing Amazon dumps and just saying, why am I doing play space? Why should I be WPN? Why should I buy from distribution when I can just go on Amazon and just wait for sales and dumps, or go on eBay or TCG Player and buy most items cheaper because everything's collapsing? Why should I even order from a distributor? Distributors charge handling fees, minimum order fees. They make you pay 2-3% for a credit card fee. Like, there's no benefit. So this person's just like, I've just been backing off. He goes, I literally, the number one thing in my store is Pokemon. He goes, we've actually started carrying Flesh and Blood, and we're considering MetaZoo, but it's people either love it or hate it, and they go, And he says, we do a lot of Yu-Gi-Oh! And we do a lot of actual tabletop board games and accessories and playmats and sleeves and dice and all that. And I said, well, I mean, I don't really blame you. He goes, we do a lot of old school Magic, and we always buy collections, and we stock single cards, but only older. We won't stock standard cards or anything like that because of price swings and too many versions. So that was interesting. I want to give one final example. Store number 4 I talked to went back to the original thing and simply just told me something completely different again. And it says, honestly, my customers love the products. I love it. But the prices are so damn high, I'm literally hand selecting one product line from each release. I said, well, do you mind giving me an example? I think the store was in New York. And this store told me, well, Rudy, Brothers of War's coming out. We got Brothers of War Draft, Commander, Set, Jumpstart, and Collector. Am I missing him? He said, out of those 5 product lines, we dropped Collector boxes to 0. We dropped Draft boxes to 0. Jumpstart, no way. We got burned hard on Dominaria Jumpstart. Commander, there's too many Commander decks, and all the set Commanders that are released with each set are just diluted hot trash. So I said, that leaves set boxes. He said, yeah. So essentially, I ordered literally 60 set boxes of Brothers of War, and that's it. I'm not going to restock it unless Amazon or they dump on the secondary market and I can buy it back cheaper. And I'm going to put that in my store. So now that last store in this example said specifically, I don't want 5, 6 versions of one item on my shelf. I'm not going to tie up all this capital that's been inflated in pricing. Consumers don't know what they want. They don't know which cards they want. All the cards that they don't want or do want, all are essentially worthless in 20 variants of cards that nobody gives a shit about. So the layers of problems. So let's just step back from everything. So all the examples I gave you all, nobody said anything about hating Magic the Gathering or dropping Magic the Gathering. Nobody said Magic was dead. Nobody said they hate the products being released. Not a single person told me they hate Dominaria. Not a single person told me they hated Infinity. Not a single person told me they hated Double Masters. Now, some people said they hated Baldur's Gate because they lost so much money because it was overprinted, or not overprinted, it was overpriced. It should have been reduced price. So, the conclusion was, there's a lot of emotion, anger, with Hasbro, Wizards, the variants of the single cards, the variants and versions of the sealed product, and now you have other options. You know, this is one of those things in life. We're going to cut the video off here, but I just want to give an example. It's one of those things in life, like you're in a relationship with a dude or a chick, either a Bearscape or a Liliana. And you'll say your relationship's terrible, but you put up with it. Maybe it's the best I got. You kind of go along with it. You've been together a couple of years. You have a dead bedroom life, which means you have no intimacy, nothing. You're miserable. Let's pretend that, okay? And you're just going along with it. That's what it feels like these stores are doing. They're just going along with it, but there's no excitement anymore. And the problem with that is, what happens when something else comes along? That's what concerns me about everyone's attitude towards Hasbro and Wizards right now. Because all the textbook thing of a bad relationship or a toxic relationship is all of a sudden, she comes home one day, well, I don't know why he left and he was miserable and cheating and this and that. And then the other party, guy or girl, says, well, you know, we haven't had anything in a long time. Nothing's going on. Something better came along. I went for it. That's the risk of Magic right now. I feel like we're in a situation where, like, Pokemon, Flesh and Blood, maybe this new Sorcery TCG coming next year, you know, all these things that are targeting. I mean, MetaZoo doesn't really target Magic, but, like, you know, Sorcery, Flesh and Blood, and maybe, you know, what happens if these guys really keep pushing forward like they are? What happens if they really continue to grow or expand? And you have all these stores in this bad, toxic relationship with Wizards and Hasbro, and they feel disenfranchised. There's no loyalty, but they're putting up with it. And then suddenly something better comes along. And human nature is, well, you take the path of least resistance. And if something better comes along, attention is going to be pulled in a different direction. Resources are going to be pulled in a different direction. And you're going to go in the direction that has the most enjoyment. And that's my concern of Magic right now. I hope that makes sense. This was a long, ranty video. But I really wanted to share the stories of all these different stores' opinions. And comment section should be interesting. I hope you guys learned something. I hope you guys appreciate it. It's going to be an interesting couple months. Brothers War is going to be a big make or break moment. If Brothers War comes out and falls apart and goes to hell, that's not a good sign moving into next year, because, I mean, they really need to get it right, you know? So, have a beautiful day, everybody. Sorry for the long video. A lot longer than I thought.